Just about multiple source as a flat file, extracting the data from multiple sources. For that, you need a file which contains the names of those files from which you are going to extract it, which is called as file list. The file with the file list should be there in the Informatica server. Then in the session properties, you set it as indirect, and you give the file list name and its path. So at runtime, because it is set to indirect, Informatica will know that that file is a file list, and it will open that file and extract the data from those multiple files. Then we discussed about HCD type 2, which holds the history and the current data. So history and current, that is start date and end date, you need to validate the record. History, so if the record does not exist, if the employee ID does not exist in the dimension table, then you have to insert it as a new record. Hence you have to update the end date and also insert another record as a new record, because HCD type 2 contains current plus history data. We identify current data with end date is null. So to do that, first we need to find the check if the employee ID which is coming from my staging is existing in my dimension table or not. For that you will use a lookup transformation. Then you will split the data into multiple streams, loading data into multiple targets. So you need a router. Then you use insert pre-update strategy, insert update strategy for inserting the record, for updating the end date, so that for the end date we calculate as date entered -1. Then we use the sequence generated transformation. But if excuse me, lookup transformation writes the SQL by default based on the fields, based on the lookup fields. So remove the fields which are not required for you from the table on which you did the lookup. In the lookup transformation, remove the fields. You can modify that to default to select statement. Lookup gets the data into the cache at runtime, and it will not refresh. It will not refresh the cache. It will not refresh the cache. This is very important, please. It will not refresh the cache from the table on which it is doing the lookup while the session is running. So you can override that lookup statement. So for us, we need, if there are multiple values for the same employee ID, we want only the latest record to be updated. So we'll put it as lookup as end date is null. In lookup transformation, you have the properties, policy on multiple matches, use first value, use last value, use any value or report an error. So if it finds multiple records, which one should I load? Take it. You can take the first value or the last value or the any value. But how will be the sequence of order? Lookup by default, when it writes the select statement, it will does the order by. This is what we have discussed in yesterday's class. Do you have any questions? Please reply to my message. Now, coming to today's class, we are going to load data into dimension product table, and also we'll load data into fact load. So we extract the data from two staging tables, product and product unit cost, and we load the data into dimension product table. So two are in relational database tables. While loading the data into the dimension product table, you load the product key, which is a sequentially generated number, and you need a product cost from the STG product unit cost table. So two relational tables. You want to join them based on the product ID. So to join them, we will use a source qualifier transformation itself, in that we will join the two tables because it is relational. To generate sequence number, we use a sequentially generated number. So we have two tables, one target. It is a relational table, so you join them in a source qualifier transformation. So when coming to Informatica mapping, I will import the sources from my staging schema. That is STG product and STG product unit cost. Using the control key, I can select multiple. Import from database, from the data mart, and want to load it into dimension product table. So mapping, create m_case study 10 dimension product. I have product table, product unit cost, and I need to load data into dimension product table. This is my business requirement. So you have product and product unit cost. I will join them in a single source qualifier, which we did long about in a business case 4 or 5. So I join them in a single source qualifier. Properties, user defined join. This product ID is equal to this product ID. So I join them in a single source qualifier transformation. Then transformation create, expression, best practice, and take all the columns which I require into my expression transformation. Then from product ID to product ID, I'll link them, transformation create, sequence generator. So we have the next val, properties, I'll put it as 4001. I'll save my work in the dimension product table. This is a very simple mapping. Then I will execute this mapping. In my workflow. Case study 10, dimension product table. Source is the staging table. Target is my data mart. Change bulk to normal. Then workflow designer. And save your work. Then start the workflow. This is a very simple mapping. So open your sheets and write down this source connection and the target connection. After you have written, please let me know. You are done. Then give the source and target connection. Sorry. When you are done, please let me know. Okay. Now I have executed the mapping. So this is the data in my target table, and it has the product cost, product ID, product key, product description, group description, and division description. Now comes fact table load. So please focus now. The requirement of this mapping will aggregate the data to the level of fact sales primary keys. The mapping also looks up against dimension product table, dimension customer table, dimension dealership table, dimension employee table, and dimension dates table. So source is STG sales transaction table, and the target is my fact sales. So let me define the source first. STG sales transaction table is my source. Target in my fact sales table. Now, let us discuss the table structure first. Then we will discuss the whole story. So describe STG sales transaction. Please observe very carefully what I am discussing now. This is your staging table. That is, you have extracted the data from source and you have loaded the data in the staging table. So in the staging table, observe very carefully what I am going to discuss now. In the staging table, the columns are customer number, It may be dealership ID or employee ID, customer number. I look at the table structure, product ID, employee ID, dealership ID, and the transaction date, and quantity. Quantity, price, and all this stuff is my source table. So now look at the customer number, product ID, employee ID, dealership ID, transaction date, and quantity. Now focus your mind in a OLTP system. If you go to Walmart or if you go to any store, what happens? They'll give you a receipt saying that you provide your card in Costco or Sam's. You provide the card to them. You provide the card to them. So what they do, they'll scan your card. They will give your card number, your Walmart card or Sam's Club number, let's say 101. You bought a product, some electronic goods or something, whose product ID is Sami. So he has a product ID, let's say XYZ, salesperson ID, store dealership ID, Walmart, Sam's Club own number, that dealership ID number, Sam01, on which date you bought the transaction, how much quantity you bought. So when you buy a product in the OLTP system, the data will be stored like this. So you may be another customer, bought the same product, sold by the same employee ID at the same dealership ID on 1/10/2005, quantity sold 10. Again I bought XYZ. I bought twice the same product in next 10 minutes. I made 2 bills. Like this, transactions happen in the source system. Like this, transactions happen in the source system. How many products you buy, that will be added into the transactional system, and it will have price, discount, and all that stuff. This is your source data in the OLTP system. Now you are going to load this data into, you have loaded the data into the staging table. Now from staging you are going to load the data into your fact table. That is my business requirement. So the same data has been loaded into my staging table from your source. This is your data from your source system, which was loaded into your staging table. Now you need to load data into the fact sales table. Let's see the table structure of fact sales. Remember the surrogate keys concept. Remember why we use surrogate keys in a fact table, which are the keys of the dimension tables. So now, how is the structure of your data warehouse? How is the structure of your data warehouse? Please look at it. You have a dimension table. And pictorially I'm deriving these tables. How is the structure is, you have a customer dimension table, which has a customer key, customer ID or customer number, customer name. You concatenated the customer name, customer phone number. Then you have product dimension table which you would have been loaded today after the class. It does also have a product ID, product cost, product name, product description, product cost, like this. You have another dimension table which you have loaded the data into, that is dealership dimension. Which will have dealership key, dealership ID, dealership name, dealership address, which you have loaded into this table. Now you have loaded into another dimension table, which was your employee dimension table. You have the employee key, employee ID, employee name concatenated first name, last name, employee address. So they are saying this is your fact table now. This fact table contains customer key, product key, dealership key, employee key, quantity, price, discount, whatever. I'm just giving a thought process for you. So look at the transaction which happened in your source system. This is your transactions which have happened in your source system, which you loaded into your target table, that is your fact table, into your staging table. From source to staging, you have loaded this data. Already you have loaded the data into your dimension tables. The customer data has been already loaded. Dealership data is already loaded. Employee data is already loaded. Product data is already loaded. By loading the data, you generated a sequence number. Now what is he saying? The requirement is, now you load this data into the dimension table. Whatever calculations you have, like sum of quantity, total cost, or total revenue. I'm just giving you total revenue or whatever it is. So he has some formulas. Now you need to load data into this table. Formula for total revenue, just I'm giving you a thought process. Quantity into price or whatever. I don't know the formula. I'll see the sheet later. So some formula for total cost, total revenue, like this. Sum of quantity, sum of discount into minus and all that stuff. Now in this target table also, in the source also, you have price column. I didn't show you, that's all. So you have, this is a transaction happened in your source system. Now you have to load the data into the staging. You have already done. Now from staging, you need to load data into the fact table. Now when you are loading the data, please look at the keys of your fact table and the staging table from where you are going to load. These are all surrogate keys in the fact table. But the data is coming in a customer number or customer ID, please. Product ID, employee ID, dealership ID, the date on which the transaction happened. This is the data is coming from your source. But in the fact table, you have the keys. Now, those keys, the values in these keys are in the dimension table. The values of those customer keys are in the dimension table. But the source is coming with this original values, that the natural keys or OLTP values, it is coming in. But I want to load customer key for the first record. For this record, I'm talking about 101. I want to load the data into the target table, that is my fact table. But from my source, I'm getting these OLTP keys. But in my dimension table, they are the surrogate. In the fact table, there are the surrogate keys. So for 101, let us assume in your customer dimension table, for 101, it started with 1001. So our dealership ID SMA01, it may be 2001. For product dimension, I will write here. For product ID XYZ, it may start at 4001. For employee dimension data, for Vijay01, it may be at 3001. Like this, that data is there in my dimension tables. Like this, the data is there in my dimension tables, which I'll show it to you now. Select the star from dimension customer. So in the customer number you have and the customer key you have. Select the star from dimension product. So for that particular product ID, you have the particular product key. Select the star from dim employee. For that particular employee ID, you will have the corresponding employee key. Select the star from dim dealership. For the particular dealership IDs, you have generated the keys. Now please observe from the source, that is from your staging, this is the data coming in. How will you load it now? Not Yasin. Yasin, please wait till others answer. How will you load data into the fact table? As data which is coming in is in different keys or where different fields, and the fields in your fact table are different. That is, the corresponding surrogate keys are there in your fact table. Then how will we load it? This is the question to all of you except Yasin. First and foremost, have you understood my question? You haven't using Informatica. Look at it from a SQL perspective, basic logical perspective. What transformations you'll use? Definitely, you'll go there. From a logic I'm talking about, basic algorithm or basic way of expressing yourself. This type of data is coming in. You use SQL language. Venkat, Sita. How about others? Yeah, answer is right. You need to join the dimension tables with this staging table, with this customer. You need to do like this. You have to join this customer number is equal to this customer ID or customer number. You need to join this and give me the corresponding customer key. This product ID is equal to this product ID. Give me the corresponding product key. This employee ID is equal to this employee ID. Give me the corresponding employee key. This dealership ID is equal to this dealership ID. Give me the corresponding dealership key. So while loading the data into the fact table, you join, for each record, you join all these four tables. For each record, you join all these four tables to get the corresponding values. That's why if you observe it, that's the reason you have to load dimension table first. All the dimension load should be completed before you start the fact load. Before you start the fact load, you have to complete the load of your dimension tables. Now there is a transaction date. For this, they will create a time dimension. For this, they will create a time dimension or dim dates. In my case, it is dim dates, which will have the date key and the date value and other fields. Let me show you the table structure also. Describe dim dates. So you have date key, date value, calendar day, number, week, start date, week, start date, and all. As I discussed in the time dimension table, this data in this dimension table will be loaded using PLSQL stored procedure, for which we have already loaded for you and kept it ready. So for each and every load, for each and every record, we have generated a keys for this. So we generated the keys and loaded the data into the target table of dimension dates in the PLSQL stored procedure. So coming to our example, we'll say this transaction date is equal to this transaction date, then give me the corresponding date key. So after you get that values, then you summarize it based on your business requirement. So you need to join the tables. So when the data is about to be loaded into the fact table, to get the corresponding certificate keys from the dimension table, we need to join all the dimension tables to get the surrogate keys. Now coming to Informatica, why we need to join them? Because it is corresponding keys are existing. Coming to Informatica, how to implement this joining this tables and all, getting the corresponding surrogate key? We use a lookup transformation to get the corresponding values. So we do a lookup on each dimension table and get the corresponding surrogate keys. Then what is my requirement? I do a lookup on all the dimension tables to get the corresponding keys. Then I want to calculate sum of selling price, sum of product cost, sum of sales quantity, and all this stuff, which is aggregate function. So I will use aggregator transformation, so that I'll aggregate and load the data into the dimension table. On which keys should I aggregate it? The data to the level of the fact sales primary keys. What are the fact sales primary keys? Those are all the surrogate keys are your primary keys. So based on this, you have to aggregate it. So fact table primary keys are your group by keys. Then you calculate and load the data into the target table. Clear, everybody? What, Yasin? Now, shall we do the mapping? Mapping, create. Sita, are you clear? So fact sales table, get the STG sales transaction data and load the data into fact sales table. So best practice. Please hold on for a minute. Now look at it, the way we do the mapping, expression, best practice. So from customer number to discount, we'll put it under our expression transformation. Now, transformation create lookup. We'll do a lookup on dimension customer table or product table. It's up to you. So first I'll do customer dimension. If it is already defined as your target, you import the table structure and put your customer number into this. That is your input. So remove the columns for best performance. All the columns which are not required, we will remove it. We need only the customer. Join, get the customer corresponding key. So be careful here. The first column is customer key. You put customer number is equal to customer number input. I renamed it as then another transformation create lookup on bin product table. So dimension product table, we'll import the dimension product table. Then we'll put the product ID into this. I rename this as input. Okay. Now look at the requirement. In one of the formulas, you need product cost. For that, you could have joined the STG table also and get the product cost from this based on its product ID. And the other way around is already this product cost is loaded into my dimension table by the previous mapping. So anyway, I'm doing a lookup on the product dimension table. So I'll take product key from the product dimension table and also the corresponding product cost. Can return multiple values. So till now you were looking at only one return value from a lookup. Now it can return more than one value. So I'll do a lookup on the product dimension product table and get the, based on the product ID, I will get the product key and also the corresponding product cost. Is it clear, please? So product ID is equal to, so which columns I remove it from product description, division description only, group description, because I need the product cost and product fee, so I'll keep it. And my lookup condition is product ID is equal to product ID. Then transformation create lookup on dimension employee, which is already imported as my target. Then my employee ID is the input to this transformation. I'll rename this. Then from employee name to the then I'll put the condition employee ID is equal to employee ID input. Then another transformation, create lookup on dimension dealership. We have already imported as a target. Then you put the dealership ID into this table, into this lookup, which is your input to the transformation. So I'll remove all the other columns for better performance of Informatica mapping. So dealership ID is equal to dealership ID input. Then transformation create lookup on dimension dates. On dimension dates. Because for that particular transaction date, I need a date key create. I haven't imported the table for any other purpose, so I say import from relational table data mart tim dates. So I'll take this transaction date into this field. Here date value, it's not date value from the dimension table, you keep it that one. Condition, lookup, date value is equal to transaction date. Then you take this up. These are the keys coming from here, different dimension tables. Now we will aggregate it, so I'll put the aggregated transformation and put the fields in this. What are the fields I require? Product key, customer key, employee key. In the same sequence I'll keep it. Then dealership key, then date key. These are the required, and also I required from my dimension product table product cost. So from the one dimension, from one lookup transformation, you are taking two return values. So for the product ID, it will return the product key and also the corresponding product cost. Then I'll keep all these columns from my expression transformation into the aggregated transformation. Just let toggle this product cost down. Now group by on product key, customer key, employee key, dealership key, and the date key. Then I need to calculate units sold, that is sum of quantity. Now I create a port called units sold. Then I write sum of quantity in this formula. Then discounted amount, and create a port called discounted amount. Make it output port only. Revenue. Then sum of product cost. Create another port called cost. So these are the fields, aggregated values. So now I'll connect holdback from product key to date key. I'll connect to my target. Holdback rebate, I'll connect it here. Then unit sold, discounted amount, revenue, cost, I'll connect here. So this is your fact table load. So open your sheets and write it down, the source and target dimension tables. When you are done, please let me know. So this is the reason you do a lookup on the dimension tables to get the corresponding surrogate keys. You're done? Give the connection information also. Then I'll give you the final solutioning. Then I'll execute it. You're done? Okay. Then I'll create the session mapping, edit, task developer, create session, backload, mapping, source, staging connection, dimension customer, fact sales, data mart SB14, dimension customer, dimension product, dimension employees, dimension dealership, dimension dates, save your work, workflow, Then I'll save my work and I start the workflow. So it has loaded the data into my fact sales table. So let's start from fact to sales table. So it will calculate, you'll get the corresponding keys and puts the data into your dimension table. Is it clear? The fact load. Yeah. I'll take 1 minute and I'll come back and answer to your question. They will write a PLSQL stored procedure to load the data into the time dimension table, so that because it is one-time load, data in a time dimension, data will not change. So, like if you look at the time dimension data, if it is January 1st, 2001, this is January 1st, 2001. If it is Monday, it is Monday. So data will not change. So they will write PLSQL stored procedures. In interview, if they ask you, you say that it is already there in the project. Others have written it. So they write a PLSQL stored procedure. It depends on the grain level. If your grain level is daily, this will be a daily, like this dimension table will be there. If it is monthly, then how the data looks like. If that was a grain level daily which I have shown you. If you are monthly reporting, only monthly is the lowest grain level, then your dimension table looks like this. Date key, month, year, quarter, like this. Quarter 1, quarter 2, like this. So date key 1001, month January 2001. Comes, if it is US, it comes under 1002, Feb 2001. 1003, March 2001, quarter 1. 1004, April 2001, comes in second quarter. 105, 2001, quarter 2. 1006, April, May, June 2001, 2. So per year you will have only 12 records in this table. So it is monthly grain level then. So if it is the daily grain level, then you have 365 records per year in this dimension table. So based on the grain level, they write the PLSQL stored procedure. They will write the PLSQL stored procedure. Are you with me? Is it clear, everybody? Sita, is it clear for you? Now, what happens practically in projects when your source is a flat file? How they work in a fact table, when your source is multiple flat files or a flat file, whatever it may be, how it works in the industry, in the project. Source is a flat file. Source flat file will have a file, let us assume you have employee fees, one file. you have employee west, another file, employee central, another file, and you have a file list, employee list file, which contains the file's name. So the data in these files of employees is pertaining to employee east only. For west, it is employee west only. For central, it is central only. That data is there in those flat files. Now, these files, let's assume, contains 10th January data, 2005 data. This is your source data. Then you are going to load this data into your staging table. Then from staging, you are going to load the data into the dimension employee table. So from here to here, you did case study mapping 5 session. From here it is case study 9 mapping you have done in your case study. So you extract the data from this source table, you loaded the data into staging. Before you load the data into staging, you have deleted the data in the staging. Previous data that case 9 has taken and loaded the data into your dimension table. This is what we were discussing about it. So what will happen in projects? They have sent you the 10th January data. You have put it on your integration server. These files. Under C:\inf server, src files. You have kept these files under this path, including the file list and the files. File list and files. But if you observe it, please hold on for a minute. Now, if you observe in projects, what will happen is every day they will send the files to you. Every day they will send the files to you with the same file names. With the same file names they will send to your team, and you will put it in this integration server. How you will put it, how they do it, that will be discussed in maybe tomorrow class or day after tomorrow class. I will discuss how they do it. But for today's understanding, let you assume that they have sent you a file and you have kept the file under this path. These files are of date 10th January 2005. That data has come into your integration server machine. Now we executed case study 5. It extracted the data and deleted before loading. It deleted the data and loaded into staging. Then case study 9 will pick the data from stage employee table and load it into dimension employee table. Now next day, again the source team will send you the files. This time they will send it from 11th January 2005 data. 11th January 2005 data they will send you. Now that data also next time you have to keep these files in the same path because these paths are hard-coded. File list, file names are all hard-coded. So you cannot change the file names. File names will be the same. Now you have to put this file onto this path. For that, the mechanism how they do it will be discussed in tomorrow's class, maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow's class. But having understanding now is that every day files will be sent to you. Every day files will be sent to the DW team. File names are the same every time. Only the difference is data in the file will be of different dates. Data in the file will be of different dates. But file names are the same. And in our session properties, the path is hard-coded and file names are hard-coded. File names or file list is hard-coded and file names in that file list is hard-coded. So this is with the background in your mind about this. Every day they will send you the files and you have to keep the files in this location. The file should be kept in this location every day. How to keep these files and all, tomorrow we will discuss. But for today's lab, from a lab perspective, what we have done is, we have two sets of files. We have two sets of files with us. One set of file will contain data of 10th January 2005. Another will have 11th January 2005. For lab perspective only, we have two files kept in mind in the spelling may be wrong. In the lab perspective only, what we do is we have kept two files in two different folders, two sets of files in two different folders, which under the path C:\INS server SRC files. For 10th Jan data, we created one folder for lab perspective. So, which will contain 10th January data. Another under same C:\INS server SRC files. Under the folder called 11th Jan 2005, that is 11th January data is kept for the lab perception only. Are you with me, please? Is it clear? Okay. Venkat, is it clear for you? This is your lab perception. This is your actual project perception. How to implement this, tomorrow I will discuss. With today's lab, we will do 10th January and 12th. So, we will load two times data. One data will come from 10th January, another time 11th January. But to make this happen in the lab perspective, we will extract the data twice, load from source to staging and staging to the dimension tables and the fact tables. So let me show you where those files exist. So under C:\INS servers, please observe, under 10th January we have data, under 11th January we have data. So 10th January data, that is what we have extracted and loaded it in our case. So in 11th Jan, in Hyderabad in Central there are 30 lines, that is 29 lines. I'm talking about 10th January data. Which has 29 lines in Hyderabad in Central. Then employee East. It has 29 lines. Remove the header. So it will have 28. Then employee West. $32 means 31. So plus 31. So it has 88 rows of data of 10th January. Now, what I do in the mapping, I will take the case study 5 in my session, that is STG employees table. In the session, I will change the path of extracting data to C:/INF server / 10th January 2005 for the lab purpose only. So 10th January 2005, I will set it to 10th January 2005 and I say OK. So please open your sheet of 12.7 and put it as 10th January 2005. Please write it down and let me know. I hope you understand what I was trying to drive the point is. So please put this 10th January in the session only. Just open the session. You have to put 10th January 2005. So you have to add 10th January 2005 to that path. That's all you have to do. Open the case study 5 and do that. You are done, please. So we have done this. Next point I need to discuss is we need to extract the data from source and load the data into staging. And from staging, you have to load the data into dimension table. This is HCD1, HCD2. So that is, we already implemented it and all. Now observe it here. This session of 9th case study can be executed only after you load the data into STG employees table. Without this data loaded into STG employees table, if we execute it, it will not have anything for us. That is, if you want to load the data into dimension employee table, there should be data in STG employee table first. To put the data into STG employee table first means you have to execute case study 5. Then subsequently you have to execute case study 9. That means case study 9 session is dependent on case study 5. It is dependent on case study 5. So first execute case study 5, then execute case study 9. This is called a dependency mappings. So case study is dependent on case study 5. So first you have to load STG employee tables, means first you have to execute case study 5, then execute case study 9. So one after the another you have to execute the sessions. If you execute one after the another sessions, before that, in a single workflow, you can have multiple sessions. In a single workflow, you can assign multiple sessions. In that, if you assign one session after another session, then that is a session, like in our case study 5 session should be executed, then case study 9 should be executed. This type of loading is called sequential loading. This type of loading is called sequential loading. So case study 9 should be executed only after case study 5. So in a single workflow, you can keep more than one session and you can execute one after the another those sessions. That is called a sequential load. Or if you execute the sessions, example session 1 and 2 at the same time, then it is called parallel load. In a single workflow, you can have sequential load, you can have parallel load, or you can have both. Combination of sequential load combination of parallel load. You can have it in your Informatica. So in a single workflow, you can run tasks, multiple sessions, one after another. Then it is called sequential loading. You can run concurrently, parallelly. At the same time, all these three sessions will be executed. Then it is called concurrent load or parallel load. Or you execute some sequential, some parallel, combination of concurrent and a sequential pattern within a workflow. You can have that in your projects. So workflow can contain multiple tasks. Some can be sequential, some can be parallel, or all can be parallel, or all can be sequential. It's up to the requirement of it. We will decide it. But in this case, we need to execute it one after another. For that, I'll create one workflow. I'll create that workflow and call it as WF_S_ case study 12 EMP sequential load. So first session of case study 5 and case study 9, I link them with this link task. In a single workflow, you can have multiple sessions, one after another. This is getting executed. Then it is called as sequential load. Then it is called as sequential load in Informatica workflow. Or if you put it, you put the two sessions linked like this, then this is called parallel load. Both will be executed at the same time. When you say start workflow, it will be executed both. Then it is called as parallel loading. But we don't need, as per this requirement, we have to execute this session, then this session. So this is called sequential load in Informatica. So open your sheets, write down this workflow of case study 12 EMP sequential load. Please write it down this. After you have written, then we will execute this. Any questions on this, please, till now? So, important point, everybody write it down for yourself. You delete the data in the dimension employees table because you already loaded the data into dimension employees table. So you delete the data from dimension employees table. So I'll delete it and commit it. Delete from dimension employees table. Delete and commit. Delete and commit. Please write down a point there. For staging, we don't require because in the mapping itself, we have set up to execute, delete the data in the staging table. So please observe. I say start workflow now. Start the workflow. Please observe here in the workflow monitor. First, STG fifth case study is executed. Then dimension employee table will be executed. So, how many records it will load into the dimension table? It should load 85 records because in the staging table it has null value. Select the star from STG employees. So this has 88 records loaded into the staging table. And it has 3. The other which we have loaded the same data only. where employee ID is null. So these three records will be filtered out and loaded 85 records. So all the data in this dimension table, fresh data it is, so there is no end date. Now second day data, second set of data has come, that is 11th January data. Now in the second set of data, how many records are there? For employee central, you have seven lines, means 6 records, 6 plus, this is employee central. Employee east will have 7 records. Employee west, 16 means 15 records. So you have plus 15. So total 28 records. 28? 21, yeah, 28 records. So already I have loaded 85 records. There are no null value employees in this, so 28 records. So total the target table should contain 113. Now please look at the data warehouse concepts. This mapping is a CD type 2. This mapping is a CD type 2. So you are going to extract 28 records and load it into your dimension employee table. Now the logic will be, if the new record, if there is no employee ID, condition failed, then that record will be inserted as a new record. If the condition is succeeded, then you update the end date and insert as a new record. This is your CD type 2. Now for 11th January data, what should I do in Informatica mapping is, go back to the session, mapping, change this to 11th January. That's all you have to do. Now it will pick 11th January data and load it into my dimension tables, staging table, then into my dimension tables. So please open your sheet and write down this. To change second time, you change this to 11th January data. Then I will execute it and I will let you know, I will show you the data. Then please let me know. So I'll execute once again. Start the workflow. Now it will delete the data in my staging. Then load it, then dimension employee table. Sequential load. So let me go to my staging table. And it will contain only 11th January data. Now when I load the data into my dimension table, where I want to, any records are being updated, is not null. Go to SCD type 2 logic I'm talking about. So employee ID, which is not null. So where employee ID, this is checking for my SCD type 2, please, where employee ID is equal to 86455, order by employee key. So this person, when it came first time, start date, second load, record existed, so it updated, then inserted as a new record. This is what is SCD type 2. With this, I am done for today. I am done for today. So you go ahead and do the lab. Before I call it a day, do you have any questions? If you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, then please go ahead and do the labs. From me, it is bye. So please do the lab.